I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world, as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption.
Greetings, and welcome to another episode of Recipe Redemption. In our Market of Mystery segment, I submit for your consideration this tasty treat. Vegan fried chicken with gravy. In a can. Suspending commentary on whether anything vegan can even call itself fried chicken, I would like to digress for a moment to discuss the general topic of substitution. For various reasons, we may wish to substitute an ingredient in a recipe, possibly because of a sensitivity or simply for a healthier alternative, or even because it's just plain better at doing whatever job the ingredient does, and that's perfectly fine. However, I often find that substituting ingredients leads to a noticeably different dish, not only altering the flavor profile or the texture or mouth feel, but actually altering the nature of the dish itself to the point where it becomes awkward to actually call it by its original name. Thus, my first issue with this product. It uses gluten as the chicken substitute. Now, gluten is used a lot as a meat substitute, particularly in canned Asian products billed as vegetarian, since many Asian cultures are predominantly Buddhist, and many adhere to a philosophy of vegetarianism in an effort to cause the least suffering toward living things. But they still want something that's kind of like meat. Gluten is firm, but kind of squishy. Probably the closest you can get to a meat-like texture from a vegetable product, but to my mind, you have to use a bit of imagination to convince yourself it's actually meat, because the texture and flavor really aren't the same. My second issue with the vegan fried chicken is the presentation. It's canned in gravy. Obviously, that's the way they make it shelf stable and shippable around the world. You gotta put it in some sort of packaging. But if the deep fried, and I'm going to assume it's deep fried gluten, had any chance at fooling you into thinking it's fried chicken before it went into the can, it lost that chance once it was swimming in vaguely chicken flavored gravy and sealed in the can. See, I'm an extra crispy kind of guy. To me, fried chicken should be juicy and flavorful on the inside with a craggy crust that crunches satisfyingly with every salty bite. Even if you were to serve it with gravy, if it was fresh out of the fryer, doused in gravy and quickly delivered piping hot to the table, for a short period of time you could still enjoy that crispy texture before the gravy completely soaked it through. This has been sitting in this gravy for who knows how long. So if it was crispy when it went in, it's not crispy now. And we know that the texture is not going to be the same as actual fried chicken. So now your only possible saving grace is the flavor. And does it actually taste like fried chicken with chicken gravy? We'll find that out in a moment. But I'm simply predisposed to dislike this product even before I pop the lid, but in the name of due diligence, pop it I shall, and sample the contents therein. However, if my suspicions prove valid, I have prepared a little taste test to compare.
Here I have a block of firm tofu, which I'm going to split lengthwise to get a little more surface area out of this block. What I'm going to do is I've got some paper towels here, doubled it over actually, and I'm going to fold these blocks of tofu into a little package. In that package, I'm going to put seam side down onto, now this is actually the broiler pan out of my toaster oven. The reason I've got it's a flat surface with slots in the bottom. It'll allow anything I squeeze out of it to kind of drain out. Then I've got a large frying pan on top of that and a 5-pound sack of flour because that's what I had. I'm going to let that press for about an hour. In the meantime, taking 2 cups of soy milk and adding 2 teaspoons of lemon juice to it. Now this is going to curdle the soy milk slightly and give it a tangy flavor to make it sort of a vegan buttermilk. Just stir to combine, and this is going to have to sit in the fridge for a little while so that the acid has a little chance to do its thing. I'm also going to add some salt, some garlic powder, and some onion powder to this to give it a little bit more flavor. This is what's going to act as a marinade for my tofu and for the other surprise things that I'm going to be cooking along with it. An hour has passed. I'm going to unwrap my little parcel of tofu. And you can see from the paper towel that a lot of moisture has been squeezed out. So next I cut my tofu into pieces. I guess we're going to call these like chicken tenders, and I briefly entertained the thought of actually carving this other piece of tofu into something like a drumstick or a wing or something, but then I came to my senses and I just dropped the tofu into my buttermilk marinade. I'm just shaking it around to make sure that that buttermilk marinade contacts all surfaces. I'm going to stick this in the fridge for about an hour. So everything I'm frying today is going to be dredged in the same mixture, which is flour, to which I've added salt, thyme, basil, oregano, celery salt, black pepper, dried yellow mustard, paprika, get on out of there, garlic salt, ground ginger, white pepper, and MSG. Now, if you consider salt to be a spice, it's not, but we'll go with it. That makes 11 herbs and or spices. I'm not saying this is a specific recipe that I'm following, but it is. MSG is just a seasoning. Before you have a heart attack, it's perfectly fine to use. The whole thing about it giving people headaches is overblown and was actually a propaganda tool used to cast Chinese food in a negative light, since Chinese restaurants were the largest consumers of MSG at the time. It's totally overblown. One guy got a headache after eating Chinese food and he assumed it had to be the MSG that caused it. Made a big fuss about it, and we've been avoiding it ever since, but it's actually not that bad. Now we're ready to fry. I've got my marinated tofu, I've got my dredge, I've got some egg substitute, and I'm just going to work to first coat the tofu with a light coating of the dredge, shake off any excess, dunk it in the egg, and then put back in the dredge for another coat. Make sure that you let any excess fall off or drip off before moving on to the next step, or else your nice little crust is just going to slough off when you're frying. I now have a cast iron pan over the stove with about an inch of oil in it, and I'm frying my tofu in batches, about 4 minutes on each side, to make sure that it's nice golden brown, delicious, and extra crispy crunchy. So first things first, here we have the vegan fried chicken with gravy. They've attempted to make it shaped sort of like a little drumette, but let's be honest, this is gluten and vegetable protein formed into a shape.
It's supposedly heat and serve, so the meat is meat. The faux fried chicken does have a fairly firm texture to it, which is actually surprising. Um, we'll see if it's actually like meat. Try and cut into one. Okay. It actually kind of separates apart like chicken. That is honestly surprising. And then there's the gravy, which is a little soupy, but it's not too bad. Obviously, not going to have the aforementioned crunch of actual fried chicken. But let's see if it actually fools me into thinking it is chicken. Nope. Mm. Okay. So it tore apart and produced fibers kind of like chicken, like real chicken. So I had hope for a moment, but the texture's wrong, the flavor's wrong. Mm. It is a protein, so there's a little bit of a chew to it. It's not as horrible as I thought it was going to be. That being said, it's not good. So, let's compare. Here are my three prepared alternatives. This is firm tofu that I have pressed as much liquid out of as I can, breaded and fried in exactly the same way that I did this chicken thigh. And then, just for giggles, overcooked it a little bit, but I have a slice of portobello mushroom, which is also often used as a meat substitute. So first, the tofu. Okay. Also not a chicken substitute as far as the texture. Uh, mm, mm, Definitely not a chicken substitute. The fact that I used soy milk to make the buttermilk and then a soy product tofu, there is a very definite soy sort of vegetal flavor to it. Um, it's tofu. The texture is um, still fairly soft, even after squeezing out all that liquid. It's still fairly soft. I mean, it absorbed some in the process of marinating in the buttermilk. I tried to cook it for a little longer to try and cook some of that moisture out, but even so, flavor's not bad. It's just not fried chicken. No. Obviously, portobello mushroom is not going to taste anything like actual chicken. If anything, it's meatier in flavor, so it may actually be more like, beef, but not really. hmm That being said, it's actually pretty good. Served up piping hot. This isn't bad for your next Super Bowl party or whatever. Mm, it's actually quite tasty. Now, just to refresh my palate, or remind my palate, I should say. Speaking of refreshing. Okay. Some of the fake vegetarian fried chicken. Hmm. Coming back to it now. That sort of fried gluten flavor really comes through. Now, compare that with an actual piece of fried chicken. Oh. I'm sorry, vegan
there's really no comparison. Even though I under-seasoned this a little bit, it's still juicier. It still has a better texture to it. Still has a crunch of the exterior. The seasoning is not just a artificial chicken flavor. Sorry, but I'm afraid I'm never going to be vegetarian. Just can't do it. If for whatever reason you absolutely have to go vegan, this is better than some of the vegan products I've had before. But you really can't call it fried chicken. You just can't. One moment. Tells you something when you need a piece of actual fried chicken to kill the taste of the vegan fried chicken that you just had. So, I don't know if I can actually recommend the product because I don't like it. But a lot of that is because, from my experience, I'm comparing it to actual fried chicken, and there is no real comparison. You cannot just simply substitute a soy protein isolate and gluten mixture and call it fried chicken. It doesn't really work that way. If you want to use it as a meat substitute, particularly in something with other flavors, go right ahead. I mean, I'm certainly not going to judge your lifestyle, but for my mind, there's got to be better products out there. There have to be. That's going in the garbage. So, thank you for watching. And if you have any other odd products that you've run across in the supermarket you think I should try, by all means, please let me know. And otherwise, be sure to like the video and definitely subscribe to the channel. And I will see you next time here on Recipe Redemption. Thanks for watching.